Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Neighborhood. And over here today, I have a special guest, Mr. David Ruano, who is a filmmaker and a content creator. And he's somebody that I respect because he's somebody that's constantly creating. And that was one of the reasons why I specifically wanted to bring him on today, just to talk a little bit about that. Mr. David Ruano, how are you, sir?
I am doing pretty good. Just here chilling in my studio office / closet space. But so far so good. I haven't seen the sun since this morning, so I don't really know how it is outside. But so far so good as far as in here.
Okay, awesome. So you haven't seen the sun since this morning. What goes on from dawn until dusk?
Usually editing, writing, more editing, couple naps, some drinking, and then more editing. That's usually how my day goes when I'm busy. Obviously, there are days that I do go outside because I do go outside, hence the tan that I have. I don't know if you could tell because this light's kind of like a little bit brighter. But yeah, that's been today for the most part. Just been working on a couple projects that a couple clients sent me, so trying to pay some bills that way.
Okay. When you say clients, what type of work for clients do you do, like the editing or?
Yeah, it depends on the client. Right now, my current client that I've had for a couple years now, I've been doing a lot of editing for them. They're a soccer coach. So what we've done in the past is I go out on the field when they do the trainings and the little skills sets for soccer training, usually for the youth. And I edit them afterwards so they can have them as archives as far as what skills they've learned, and also for training for other coaches so they can kind of get to the flow of the main coach who coordinates. And now that we've been under quarantine, what they've been doing is they self-tape the skills and assets that they want to showcase for the kids. They send them to me. I edit them, put them together, add graphics, the whole works, and send it back to them so they could share it with the rest of the kids so they can, do exercise, whether it be for, PE or just, soccer training and stuff like that.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. It's just interesting to see what type of jobs you could be doing during quarantine right now. And as far as like getting that type of those types of jobs, is it more so like referral based, or is it more of like people that you've like known like throughout the last
Yeah,
years, or?
pretty much the way that I got this gig was a referral for sure. Somebody referred me to somebody else, to try it out, and then it just snowballed from there. And I've been doing it for I don't know, like almost 4 years now. There's been a couple seasons, obviously, that we've taken breaks and stuff like that because I've been busy or they've been busy, or the timing just doesn't lay out, especially for their spring semester and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of referrals. I'm usually the guy that knows a guy, or I'm the guy that people know. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
So if anybody needs anything, whether it be editing, graphics, audio, filming, art, craft, masks, whatever,
Yeah.
like I'm the guy who can do it, or I know somebody else who can do it.
Right.
But yeah, so that's usually what I've been doing for the past, I don't know, almost 10 years in my career, to just create and work with other like-minded individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely a hustler, and you're, I mean, from what it sounds like, a jack of all trades in terms of you can do this, you can do that. Know people that could do that if you can't do that, which is pretty cool. So you said you've been doing this for about 10 years. What was the initial, like what inspired all this, and what are some, I mean, I know that you're working on the editing thing right now for one client with the soccer. But what are your roots, and where do you plan to go with this?
Well, pretty much what inspired all this was photography. Like, I was always a fan of photography. I always had a camera in my hand. And our family didn't have a lot of money, but my dad, if he could find like on Goodwill, like a small little camera or whatever, like a 35 millimeter camera, that he didn't mind me using or breaking eventually, uh, I would be able to use it. And I remember one of my first photos, my first recorded photos that I was able to find was a picture that I took of my own feet when I was 2 years old. And that's how far back I've been doing photography. And ever since then, we're a family of four. So every time we would go on a trip, go to Disneyland, go to camping, go wherever, our group photo or a family photo would always have three of us, because obviously somebody has to take the photo. And it's usually my dad missing because he's the one taking the photo, or I'm missing because I'm taking the photo. So it always was my hobby, photography. And then it came to a point after high school where obviously I was going to get a job, do the whole adult thing.
Yeah.
And I went, I got certified to be an EMT. And because my goal was to become a paramedic and then firefighter and, go from there. But at that time, when I got my certificate, there was a lot of pay cuts, and they weren't hiring new staff for EMT, for nursing, for police, for almost any field that I was pursuing. So I was like, in the meantime, I'll take my camera. Anybody need a photographer? Doing my dream job to become a real job, to see how it worked. And then if need be, once they were hiring, I would go back to become an EMT. And that was 2009.
Right.
And so obviously I'm not an EMT. I still have the knowledge for it and still read over the books every now and again. But uh, photography just took off. It became something that I was not only passionate about for throughout almost all my life, but I was able to make money doing it. And then from photography came editing, because obviously you have to edit your photos when it came to digital. And then after that, it became video, because video is essentially photography, just in a longer format. And video to graphics, graphics to, acting, to all these other platforms that I'm able to do, all because of photography. And that's pretty much the history of me till today. And again, always learning, always testing the waters, and always trying to see what I can do and say I did it once, whether it be now doing Cabin Fever Radio, which I want to thank you to be a part of, when it comes to doing podcasts and voiceover, and just almost to the point of becoming a full-on broadcast radio station, which I am looking into what are the licenses and the cost to become an actual FM radio station. But that's a whole different story that we could talk about later on.
That's awesome. See, the fact that you're actually thinking like that speaks a lot about your ambition and your character, because a lot of people, they don't really take that into account. I mean, I think most people, they say stuff like that in the sense of talking big, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna, break the ceiling, and they just use that. But when you say that, though, I believe you, because I've seen you enough, and I've worked with you enough to know that you're a hard worker, that you put in the work, and you've been doing it for so long, and you have that momentum, that I know that something's going to give or something's going to break in that sense. So that's why I was like, okay, this would be really cool to sit down and talk with you, to to get a little bit more, because I do think what you're doing is pretty inspiring to a lot of other people who have that in their mind. Oh, should I do a podcast or should I do this? But you're the guy that takes action. So it's really cool, and it's fun too to work with you. Like we completed the Cabin Fever radio season 1, and that was fun. Just finding our ground and that type of stuff. And now we're progressing on with that. As far as I know that you're doing the Cabin Fever radio stuff. Is there anything that you're looking to do? I think you were telling me about, I don't know if it was a short film or a feature film, I think when we were working with Jordana back then.
Yeah, so there's a couple short films that I'm involved in that obviously right now they're halted, but not forgotten.
Right.
One of them is called Dreamer, a short film that is I was able to co-write and produce, and we are a little bit more than halfway done filming it. We were supposed to do the final 2 scenes of the short, like the week that they mandated the stay at home, which was a bummer because like literally we just had planned 2 days to finish the whole thing.
Wow.
But we just couldn't do it. So that one is something that's coming up, and we're still working on it. And even now we are pretty much putting all our ducks in a row to make sure as soon as we can, we film it, and we already have the locations, we already have the shot list, we already have everything, so we can do it even more efficiently than what we would have done it in a rush. So it's a good thing, for a good pause, so we can figure out everything. But so that's a short film called Dreamer, written by Judy. I keep forgetting her last name. I don't have it with me here, but she's a very talented actress, and I was able to co-write it with her.
Very cool.
So that's one. Another short film that I was supposed to be filming at the beginning of April is Unnoticed, which is a film that I wrote and I will be directing, and is more of a dramatic PSA almost about someone who suffers from depression and lives a creative lifestyle. So it's kind of like what creative people think of when they have depression at the same time, which is something that a lot of people have but don't share, just because anybody who has depression always tries to put a smile on their face because they don't want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I do it constantly. And so Unnoticed is another really awesome short that's going to be hopefully filmed as soon as possible. And that derived from a poem that I wrote at the beginning of the year that I wrote like at 4 a.m. After like an epiphany almost. And then it was like, write it. And then that became the film. And a couple other projects that attached to that again have had to be pushed. Another one called Strongest. I think it was going to be called The Strongest, or we had a working title, but again, having to do with mental illness and how people are able to, overcome depression,
Mm-hmm.
and how they are able to help others even though they are suffering from depression. So it's not like, oh, I'm depressed, I can't help anybody. Like, no, I'm willing to help others even though I'm depressed. But yeah, so it's a lot of depressing short films for the most part. But yeah.
Yeah, art reflects life, and
Yeah,
it can't always be sunshine and rainbows, all the time, so.
definitely.
Yeah, so that's cool. So you got those 2 short films, you got Cabin Fever Radio, you're doing your editing, you're busy making masks. I always see you hustling. You make really good graphic design. I like your the logo for the Cabin Fever radio. I think that's pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. As far as I know that you talk about your passion being photography and how that went on. Uh, the two questions I was going to ask you were, one, what are some of your greatest influences and inspiration? And two, what is a passion project or a dream project that you have, whether anything, or maybe you're already doing it. I don't know.
Well, for a passion project, my current passion project is unnoticed.
Okay.
Just because that one's a little bit more closer to the chest than any of the other projects that I'm involved in, because it reflects some of the experience that I've had as a creative individual with depression or mental illness or however you want to categorize it. But so that answers question number two. Question number one, as far as inspirations, I always try to find the light inside of the dark. It's anything that has to, or anything that can make me smile. First of all, that's pretty hard to make me laugh at a joke or anything in general. But anything that can make me smile just by a glance is what inspires me. A good example is, obviously, I don't have it with me yet because it's still shipped. I recently bought a painting from an artist, a local artist that I've admired for a long time. And she painted some very simple, obviously very complex, but still very simple poppies. You know, the flower poppies, the California poppies.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw just that painting, it made me smile. So I was like, I have to buy it. And I was able to purchase the original piece. So it's in the mail and it will be hanging, like, most likely right here, because it's something that inspires me and just makes me happy by a glance. From there, as far as other influences or inspirations, I've been influenced by various artists like Salvador Dali, and the way he paints, which again, most of it seems dark at a glance, but there's always an underlining happy aspect of it.
Right.
Another writer would be like Edgar Allan Poe, who again writes a little bit darker than most people like, but there's always an underlining happy ending that that you can see. So it's a lot of finding the light within the dark.
Mm.
That's what inspires me. Yeah.
I like that because you just never know how people are gonna interpret anything, whether that's a painting or a book or a movie. You know, something that may overpass you is something that really inspires, you know, somebody. I'm looking forward to seeing the painting when it comes.
Yeah, it's a really cool painting. I really like it. If I could show it to you, I would. Let's see. Yeah, but the artist is Carissa Weber. You can find her at Carissa Weber Art on Instagram.
Okay.
And it's I'll put it onto the thing. Hopefully.
I'm really wanting to see this piece now because
hopefully people don't mind the.
I don't mind. Oh wow! Oh, that's very pretty.
So come on, camera, focus.
I mean, I could already kind of get a glimpse of it. I mean, I'm already looking at it. I mean, I think that's pretty. That's dope, dude. I mean,
yeah,
the structure, the flowers, and seeing the blue like that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very nice contrasting colors using blues and oranges, and it's very simple. But I don't know why it just makes me happy. Like every time I see it, it makes me smile. Yeah. And having the original, it makes it even more so. You know,
that's awesome.
It's definitely one of those things where I don't have that many original pieces, even though I wish I could, to support all the local artists that I know and I've come across. But little by little, I'm making my collection.
Hmm. That's very cool, man. As far as characters of movies, I know that you talked about artists like Edgar Allan Poe and Salvador Dali uh, in terms of influences. Are there any book characters or movie characters that you're like, man, I just fucking love that character? Characters that you always look for, or maybe it's a musician or
A really interesting movie character that I enjoy, mainly movies in general, is have you seen the Dollars trilogy, or also known as the Dollars trilogy, which is uh, the most known is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
no. That's with the Clint Eastwood, right?
Yeah, with Clint Eastwood.
I haven't,
Uh,
unfortunately, I haven't seen them yet.
so it's the trilogy is A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and then it's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Okay.
So again, it's a spaghetti western, and Clint Eastwood's character, which doesn't really have a name. They either call him Manco because he's got a limp wrist,
Mm-hmm.
or they call him Blondie because obviously he's blonde, but he doesn't really have a name. And his character is pretty much somewhat of an outlaw, but somewhat of a Robin Hood,
Okay.
where obviously he needs to make money. So he might hire or like coerce another bandit to give himself up to get the bounty, the bad guy's bounty. And then when they're about to hang him, he shoots the rope so the guy doesn't hang, and then they flee. And then they go to another town. They, give him up, get the bounty, and then they're going to hang him. He shoots the rope and lets him free. So his character is always obviously trying to make money, but at the same time, always looking to do something good with the circumstances that he has, which in this case, he's a gunslinger. So how good can he, how much good can he do being a gunslinger? So that's why he's able to, always fight the bad guy, but at the same time, he's always running away from the law. So his character is very interesting to me because he always finds a way to do the right thing at the end. So no matter what the situation happens or is thrown at him, or him getting shot or whatever, he always finds a way to do the right thing. So he's one of a very interesting character that not only do I watch the movies a lot. The director of the movies is Sergio Leone, and again, like having that type of aspect towards life, where it's like no matter what happens, always find a way to do the right thing. But yeah, him and I don't know. I enjoy spaghetti westerns that are like that, where it's the bad guy being the bad guy at the beginning, but having to do the right thing at the end.
That's awesome, man. So it kind of goes back to the full circle of finding the light in the dark.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, man. Yeah, definitely got that, man. Yeah, man. I'm trying to think what else is what's going on. Okay, your most anticipated movie of the year or next year, considering the fact that quarantine is happening.
That is a very good question, because again, there are a lot of movies that I want to see, but again, I tend to go and look at movies that have already passed. But I don't like for these past couple weeks. I really haven't seen the lineup for movies coming up. Besides like Guardians of the Galaxy or like other blockbuster movies that obviously I will see,
Mhm.
but nothing that is like, oh, I can't wait to see it, just because it's, I don't know, I'm not in that mindset right now.
Right. Right. Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean in terms of just everything kind of just going to a stall right now. So it's hard to think beyond with what's happening right now. As
Yeah.
far as advice for being productive during the quarantine, if I guess this would be like my last question, just because I think we're a little bit running on the timer here, but um, because you do have a lot of equipment, and I've seen the setup. Like, I love it when you show the cast members. You're like, "Hey guys, check this out," and you see like the two screens and you see the microphone. Uh, I mean, as of right now, you're probably one of the most equipped people that I know in terms of having
Stuff.
stuff. Yes, exactly. As far as somebody who wants to get started on a podcast, or I mean, what would you recommend for somebody who wants to be a content creator? Because I mean, you're busy. You're a juggernaut, And
Yeah.
I rarely use that word to describe somebody. And I mean that in a good way. Juggernaut's like you're just
Are you
some.
calling me fat?
No, Juggernaut's an X-Men character. But
And he was kind of.
well, he was more on the buffer side.
Well, his head was like, it was filled. It wasn't hollow on the inside of his cheeks. That was his cheeks.
Yeah. But nothing could stop him. I mean, I'm sure, yes, something did stop him, but when that motherfucker went, he just kept going and kept going. But what would you recommend to somebody who wants to just get busy or stay busy, or for this
It,
quarantine
it's
or after?
it's a very I would say it's a very simple mindset, but a very hard discipline. Just create. Just do it. Find 5 minutes and do it 5 minutes every day, 5 minutes every other day, but it has to be consistent. That's where the discipline comes in. And I've been able to do it because I've had that discipline. But if you want to create a podcast, it's as simple as using your phone to create a podcast, because phones have microphones. That's all you need. There's free apps. That's all you need. But just do it. That's the biggest thing that I've learned from others and I've taught others, is to just do it. You want to become a screenwriter, you want to write a movie. It's as simple as getting a piece of paper and a pen and writing it. And if you write, let's say, 2 pages every day, in 1 year, you've written over 600 pages worth of content. And that's by writing just 2 pages every day. If you want to create a podcast doesn't have to be 2 hours long. It can be 15-minute podcast. So you have 15 minutes, get your phone out, 15-minute talk, done. If you do that every day, as long as you have discipline to do it on a regular basis, not on a daily basis, but on a regular basis, whether it be every day or once a week, but do it on that same day every single time. It's kind of like going to the gym. Obviously, I don't go to the gym, but other people who do go to the gym, the way that they've progressed is because they do it constantly. And again, you don't need my gear. I didn't start off with all this gear. I've been upgrading every chance I can. I've been upgrading every chance, whether it be like go to the movies or buy camera gear. Like, okay, I'll just buy camera gear because the movie will hopefully be on TV in like 10 years. Or, like little things like that. Just do it. That's all you need. All you need is to do it. Not sponsored by Nike. Is it Nike?
That
Yeah.
is Nike, not Adidas. You're okay, bro.
You mean Adidas?
Adidas. Yeah.
That's how it's pronounced. Adidas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, I think we're good on time, Mr. Ruano. If people want to find your work and follow you, how can they find you, and where can they follow you?
They could find me very easily. Just Mr. David Ruano, MrDavidRuano. Just Google that, and you will find me. Facebook, Instagram, official website, Twitter, Tumblr, Periscope, uh, and all the other millions of social medias. If I have an account on there, it will be under Mr. David Ruano. Simple as that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. David Ruano. I really do appreciate your time. I actually did get a lot of personal insights by listening to you, and I think a lot of people are going to take that as well with them. And thank you guys all for watching, and we will see you on the next one.